In the last episode of a tale that would be told for generations to come, humanity teetered on the brink of collapse, its future as bleak as the desolate landscape that stretched as far as the eye could see. The once blue skies were now a hazy gray, choked with the remnants of a civilization that had ravaged its own home. The few remaining city-states were but a shadow of their former glory, their steel and concrete spires piercing the sky like skeletal fingers. But from the ashes of this devastation, a figure emerged. Ambrose Wynter, a man whose name would become synonymous with hope, charisma, and unyielding determination. He had a vision, a dream of a better tomorrow, and the wit and charm to make it a reality. As I, Ambrose Wynter, stood on the rooftop of my makeshift headquarters, gazing out upon the ruins of what was once a thriving metropolis, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and purpose. The wind whipped through my hair, carrying with it the whispers of 1,000 untold stories. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool, crisp air fill my lungs, and began to scan the horizon. The city stretched out before me, a labyrinth of makeshift shelters, ramshackle buildings, and hastily constructed defenses. The streets were a maze of scavenged materials, with makeshift market stalls and ramshackle homes cobbled together from scraps. The air reeked of smoke and desperation. My thoughts turned to the journey that had brought me to this moment. The struggle to survive, the fight to rebuild, and the quest to unite the fractured remnants of humanity. It had not been easy, but I had persevered, driven by a fierce determination to forge a better future. As I pondered the challenges ahead, my mind was interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the stairs. I turned to see my trusted lieutenant, Sophia, emerging onto the rooftop. "Ambrose, we've received a message from the Kralian Enclave. They're willing to meet with us." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The Kralian were a reclusive and enigmatic species, rumored to possess advanced technology and a deep understanding of the galaxy. Their willingness to meet with us was a tantalizing prospect. "Tell them I'm interested, Sophia. Let's hear what they have to say." Sophia nodded and disappeared back down the stairs, leaving me to my thoughts. The Kralian Enclave was just the beginning. There were other factions to consider, other alliances to forge. The galaxy was a complex web of intrigue and deception, and I needed to navigate it with care. As I descended into the makeshift headquarters, I was greeted by the familiar sight of activity. Technicians and engineers scurried about, tinkering with prototypes and poring over schematics. The air was thick with the smell of solder and ozone. My thoughts turned to the cutting-edge technology that had been the key to our survival. The advanced propulsion systems, the energy shields, and the sophisticated communication arrays had given us a foothold in the galaxy. But it was more than just technology that had brought us this far. It was the alliances we had forged, the trust we had built, and the shared vision of a brighter future. The hum of activity grew louder as I made my way through the crowded room. Faces turned toward me, a mixture of curiosity and expectation etched on their features. I nodded to Sophia, who fell into step beside me. "Ambrose, we have a lot to discuss," she said, her voice low and urgent. I nodded, my mind racing with the implications of the Kralian's offer. We had a long road ahead of us, but I was ready for the challenge. As I entered the makeshift conference room, I was greeted by a sea of expectant faces. The room was a makeshift affair, cobbled together from scavenged materials and hastily constructed to accommodate our growing team. "All right, let's get started," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. The room fell silent, awaiting my words. "We've received an offer from the Kralian Enclave. They're willing to share their technology to help us propel humanity forward." The room erupted into a cacophony of discussion, with opinions ranging from cautious optimism to outright skepticism. I let them talk, listening intently to their concerns and ideas. As the debate raged on, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and purpose. We had come a long way, but the journey was far from over. The Kralian's offer was just the beginning. There were rival factions to consider, alien politics to navigate, and challenges to overcome. But I was ready. I had a vision, a dream of a better tomorrow and the wit and charm to make it a reality. And so, with a sense of determination and purpose, I brought the meeting to a close. "Let's make history," I said, my voice ringing out across the room. The response was immediate. A chorus of agreement, a sea of faces set with determination. We would face challenges, we would face setbacks, but we would not be deterred, for we were humanity and we would rise. As the meeting adjourned and the room began to empty, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. The galaxy was a vast and mysterious place, full of wonders and dangers, and I was ready to face it head on. The stars beckoned and I was ready to answer. But little did I know, the challenges ahead would test my resolve, my leadership, and my very soul. The journey was just beginning and the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. The darkness that lurked in the shadows, the rival factions that sought to undermine our progress, and the true cost of humanity's rise to power would all have to be confronted. But for now, I had a meeting with the Kralian to attend to. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to take the first step into the unknown. With a sense of purpose and determination, I turned to Sophia. "Let's go," I said, my voice firm and resolute. The journey was just beginning, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. As I descended into the makeshift garage, the hum of machinery and the smell of fuel greeted me. Sophia was already there, overseeing the preparations for our trip to the Kralian enclave. The sleek, silver ship stood before us, its angular lines and glowing blue accents a testament to the advanced technology that had brought us this far. I felt a surge of pride as I approached the vessel, my mind racing with the implications of the Kralian's offer. Sophia nodded as I approached. "Everything's ready, Ambrose. We've got a team of engineers and security personnel on board, just in case." I nodded, my eyes scanning the ship's exterior. "Good. Let's move out. We don't want to keep the Kralian waiting." With a final check of the ship's systems, we lifted off into the gray, polluted skies of the ravaged Earth. The city gave way to rolling hills and barren wastelands, a harsh reminder of the devastation that had driven humanity to the brink of collapse. As we soared through the atmosphere, the stars began to twinkle like diamonds against the blackness of space. I felt a sense of awe wash over me, the vastness of the galaxy stretching out before us like an endless frontier. The journey was long, but the ship's advanced propulsion systems made short work of the distance. Before long, we were approaching the Kralian enclave, a sprawling, crystal-like structure that shimmered with an otherworldly energy. I felt a shiver run down my spine as we docked, the airlock hissing open with a soft whoosh. Sophia and I exchanged a brief glance, our faces set with determination. This was it. This was the moment that could change the course of human history. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm and resolute. With a nod, Sophia followed me out of the ship. Into the unknown, the airlock cycled open, and we stepped into the Kralian enclave, our footsteps echoing through the vast, crystalline chamber. The walls seemed to hum with energy, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the floor. I felt a sense of wonder at the unfamiliar surroundings, the alien architecture a testament to the Kralian's advanced technology. A figure emerged from the shadows, its slender, elongated body draped in flowing robes of iridescent silk. Eyes like polished gemstones regarded us, their intensity unnerving. I stood tall, meeting the Kralian's gaze, as Sophia fell into step beside me. "Greetings, Ambrose Wynter," the Kralian said, its voice like a gentle breeze. "I am Erebus, chosen speaker of the Kralian Council. We have awaited your arrival." I nodded, my hand extended in a gesture of respect. "Erebus, it is an honor to finally meet. I bring with me a proposal, one that could forge a new path for our species." Erebus inclined its head, the movement almost imperceptible. "We are willing to listen. The Kralian Council has long observed humanity's tenacity. We believe your species possesses a quality that could prove valuable." I sensed a hidden meaning behind Erebus' words, a calculated risk that only a select few might understand. I chose to press on, my determination unwavering. I propose an alliance, Erebus, a partnership that would grant humanity access to the Kralians' advanced technology in exchange for our unique perspective and adaptability. Together, we could achieve wonders, push the boundaries of what is possible. Erebus regarded me, its expression unreadable. The silence hung heavy, like a challenge waiting to be met. "You are bold, Ambrose Wynter," Erebus said finally. "We will consider your proposal, but first you must prove humanity's worth. We will present you with a trial, a test of your species' resolve and cunning." My gut tightened, a spark of trepidation igniting within me. I glanced at Sophia, her eyes locked on mine, a silent understanding passing between us. "What kind of trial?" I asked, my voice firm. Erebus' gaze seemed to bore into my very soul. "One that will push your limits, Ambrose Wynter. One that will determine whether humanity is worthy of joining the intergalactic community." I steeled myself, my mind racing with the implications. This was the moment of truth, the crossroads where humanity's fate would be decided. "I accept your trial," I said, my voice resolute. Erebus nodded, a cold, calculating glint in its eyes. "Then let us begin. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance." With those words, the chamber began to darken, the walls seeming to close in around us. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a sense of foreboding that this trial would be unlike anything humanity had ever faced. "Let's do this," I thought, a fierce determination burning within me. "We will rise to this challenge, no matter the cost." The air grew thick with anticipation as Erebus raised a slender hand, and a holographic display flickered to life before us. A 3D image of a ravaged planet materialized, its surface scarred by deep fissures and toxic storms. "Behold, Zeridiaroman 4, Erebus said, its voice devoid of emotion. "A world on the brink of catastrophe. Its native inhabitants, the Zeridians, are a primitive species, struggling to survive amidst the devastating consequences of their own actions." I studied the hologram, my mind racing with the implications. Zeridiaroman 4 was a world in dire need of rescue, its fate a grim reminder of the consequences of environmental neglect. "The Kralian Council has deemed Zeridiaroman for a suitable testing ground for humanity's mettle," Erebus continued. "Your task, Ambrose Wynter, is to establish a stable ecosystem on this planet, utilizing your species' unique adaptability and cunning." Sophia's eyes narrowed, her gaze fixed on the hologram. "What's the catch, Erebus?" she asked, her tone laced with skepticism. Erebus' gaze seemed to bore into her very soul. "The Zeridians possess a unique energy signature, one that holds the key to restoring their planet's ecological balance. However, their primitive nature makes them unpredictable. You will need to navigate their intricate social hierarchies, forge alliances, and negotiate the release of this energy signature, all while confronting the numerous dangers that Zeridiaroman poses." I felt a surge of excitement mixed with trepidation. This was a challenge unlike any we had faced before. The stakes were high, but the potential reward was worth the risk. "I see," I said, my mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. "And what resources can we expect to have at our disposal?" Erebus inclined its head, a hint of a smile playing on its lips. "You will be provided with a Kralian escort, equipped with advanced technology. However, the true test lies in your ability to adapt, to think on your feet, and to forge unlikely alliances. The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders, Ambrose Wynter." I nodded, my determination unwavering. This was our moment to prove ourselves, to demonstrate that humanity was more than just a species of reckless ambition and short-sightedness. We were beings capable of greatness, of overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles. "Let's get started," I said, my voice firm. Erebus nodded, its eyes glinting with a cold, calculating intensity. "Then let us proceed. The fate of humanity awaits." With those words, the chamber began to fade, replaced by the desolate landscape of Zeridiaroman 4. The air was thick with toxic fumes, the ground trembling beneath our feet as the planet's very fabric seemed to unravel before us. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. This was at the trial of humanity's worth. The fate of our species hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to ensure our success. "Let's move out," I said, my voice echoing across the ravaged landscape. The Kralian escort materialized around us, their sleek, silver ships humming to life as they dispatched a swarm of smaller, insectoid drones to scan the terrain. Sophia, ever the pragmatist, began to assess our resources, while Lyra, with her intuitive grasp of alien cultures, turned her attention to the Zeridians. I watched as she approached the native inhabitants, her eyes locked on theirs, searching for any sign of understanding. The Zeridians, huddled together, their skin a deep, iridescent blue, seemed to regard her with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "Sophia, what's our tech situation?" I asked, my gaze darting between Lyra and the Zeridians. "We've got advanced atmospheric processors capable of filtering out the toxic gases," she replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The Kralian drones are also equipped with terraforming technology, but it'll require careful calibration to avoid disrupting the planet's natural rhythms." "Lyra, how's the communication process going?" I asked, my attention still on the Zeridian group. Lyra's eyes never left the aliens as she responded. "It's complicated, Ambrose. Their language is based on a complex series of bioelectric signals, but I think I'm starting to grasp the basics. They're wary of us, understandably so, given their history with off-worlders." I nodded, my mind racing with strategies. We needed to establish trust, and fast, if we were to have any hope of securing the Zeridians' cooperation. "Sophia, can you get the atmospheric processors online?" I asked, turning to her. "I'm on it," she replied, already tapping away at her console. As the processors hummed to life, the air began to clear, and the Zeridians' wary glances softened ever so slightly. Lyra, sensing the shift, pressed on, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air as she attempted to convey our peaceful intentions. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the Zeridian group, its skin a deeper shade of blue than the others. It regarded us with an unblinking gaze, its eyes burning with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "This is Kale, the Zeridian leader," Lyra said, her voice low and urgent. "He's willing to listen, but we need to make this quick. The planet's instability is causing rifts in their social hierarchy." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. This was our chance to forge an alliance, to prove that humanity could work in harmony with other species. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm, as I stepped forward to meet Kale's unyielding gaze. The fate of Zeridium 4 and humanity's place in the galaxy hung precariously in the balance. I held Kale's gaze, my eyes locked on his, as Lyra began to translate my words into the Zeridian bioelectric signals. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the gentle hum of the atmospheric processors and the soft rustle of Lyra's hands as she conveyed my message. "Greetings, Kale," I said, my voice steady. "I am Ambrose Wynter, and I come in peace. We mean no harm to your people or your planet. We seek cooperation, mutual benefit, and a chance to learn from one another." Kale's expression remained inscrutable, but his eyes never wavered, drinking in every detail of our little group. Lyra's hands danced in the air, her fingers weaving an intricate pattern as she translated my words into the Zeridian language. The silence that followed was oppressive, heavy with the weight of centuries of mistrust and betrayal. I could feel Sophia's tension, her eyes darting between the Zeridians and the Kralian escort, her mind racing with contingency plans. Then, in a movement that was almost imperceptible, Kale's gaze shifted, his eyes flicking toward Lyra. For an instant, their gazes met, and I sensed a spark of understanding, a glimmer of hope. "The Zeridians are willing to listen," Lyra breathed, her voice barely audible. "But we must be cautious. Their history with off-worlders has left deep scars." I nodded, my heart still pounding in my chest. This was our chance to make a difference, to prove that humanity was capable of more than just conquest and exploitation. "We understand," I said, my voice low and even. We come bearing gifts, technology, knowledge, and a willingness to learn from you. We seek a partnership, not domination. Kale's gaze returned to mine, his eyes burning with intensity. For a moment, I felt like I was staring into the very soul of Zeridium for itself. The Zeridians will consider your proposal, Lyra translated, her hands moving in slow, deliberate arcs. But first, you must prove your worth. We will set you 3 trials if you succeed. We will consider an alliance. My heart leapt into my throat as Lyra's words hung in the air, the weight of Kale's gaze crushing down on me. Trials? What kind of trials? And what did they entail? Ambrose, we need to be careful, Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into. I nodded, my mind racing with strategies, but my eyes never left Kale's. I knew that this was our chance to prove ourselves, to forge an alliance that would shake the galaxy. We accept, I said, my voice firm, my heart pounding with excitement. Kale's gaze never wavered, but I sensed a flicker of curiosity, a glimmer of interest. The first trial is the Labyrinth of Echoes, Lyra said, her voice low and mysterious. You will enter the heart of Zeridium 4, where the planet's ancient secrets await. But be warned, Ambrose, the labyrinth is treacherous, and not all who enter return. I took a deep breath, my heart racing with anticipation. This was our chance to prove ourselves, to forge an alliance that would change the course of history. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm, as I stepped forward into the unknown. The air seemed to vibrate with Kale's words, the Zeridian's eyes burning with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I could feel the weight of the Labyrinth of Echoes settling upon me, a crushing burden of uncertainty and danger. What does the labyrinth entail? Sophia asked, her voice low and cautious, her eyes darting between the Zeridians and our Kralian escort. It is a test of courage, wits, and resolve, Lyra translated, her hands weaving an intricate pattern in the air. The labyrinth is a maze of ancient tunnels and chambers, filled with echoes of Zeridium's past. You will face challenges that will push you to your limits and beyond. I nodded, my mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. I knew that this was our chance to prove ourselves, to show the Zeridians that humanity was capable of more than just conquest and exploitation. We're ready, I said, my voice firm, as I turned to Sophia and Lyra. Let's gear up and get moving. We don't have much time to waste. Sophia nodded, her eyes flashing with determination, as Lyra handed us each a small, intricately carved device. These will guide you through the labyrinth, she said, her voice low and serious. But be warned, Ambrose, the devices are attuned to your biosignatures. If you're not careful, they'll lead you deeper into the labyrinth rather than out. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation as Kale's gaze locked onto mine. I knew that this was our chance to prove ourselves, to forge an alliance that would change the course of history. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm, as I turned to face the unknown. The Zeridians led us to a massive, ancient structure that loomed in the heart of the city. The air seemed to vibrate with energy as we stepped forward, the devices guiding us through the entrance. The Labyrinth of Echoes was a maze of twisting tunnels and chambers, filled with strange, glowing orbs that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The air was thick with the whispers of the past, echoes of ancient civilizations that seemed to reverberate through every cell in my body. I moved swiftly, my senses on high alert, as Sophia and Lyra flanked me, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. We navigated the twisting tunnels, the devices guiding us deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. And then, without warning, the walls began to shift, the tunnels collapsing behind us as we stumbled forward into the unknown. What's happening? Sophia shouted, her voice hoarse with fear as we stumbled through the darkness. I don't know, I yelled back, my heart racing with panic, as the devices led us deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. Suddenly, the walls stopped shifting and we found ourselves in a massive, cavernous chamber, filled with glittering crystals that seemed to reflect the very essence of Zeridium for itself. In the center of the chamber, an ancient artifact stood, pulsing with energy, as Kale's voice echoed in my mind. The first trial is the trial of memory, Lyra translated, her voice low and mysterious. You must unlock the secrets of the artifact and claim its power. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation as Sophia and Lyra flanked me, their eyes locked onto the artifact. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm as we stepped forward into the unknown. The artifact loomed before us, its pulsing energy casting an otherworldly glow across the chamber. I could feel the weight of the labyrinth settling upon me, the whispers of the past growing louder, more urgent. What do we need to do? Sophia asked, her voice low, her eyes darting between the artifact and Lyra. The trial of memory requires you to unlock the secrets of the artifact, Lyra replied, her hands weaving an intricate pattern in the air. You must access the memories stored within and claim its power. I nodded, my mind racing with strategies as I reached out to touch the artifact. A burst of energy surged through me, and I felt myself being pulled into a vortex of memories, echoes of ancient civilizations that seemed to span centuries. I saw Zeridiaroman 4 in its prime, a thriving planet teeming with life, its skies a deep shade of indigo. I saw wars rage across its surface, empires rise and fall, and the labyrinth of echoes being built as a testament to its ancient wisdom. As the memories flooded my mind, I felt a sense of unity, of connection to the planet and its people. I saw the Zeridians as more than just allies. I saw them as friends, as brothers, as kin. The memories began to fade, and I found myself back in the chamber, the artifact pulsing with energy before me. Sophia and Lyra stood at my side, their eyes locked onto mine, filled with a sense of awe, of wonder. What did you see? Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I saw the past, I replied, my voice filled with conviction. I saw the Zeridians as more than just allies. I saw them as friends, as family. Lyra nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. The trial of memory is complete. You have unlocked the secrets of the artifact and claimed its power. As she spoke, the chamber began to shift, the walls sliding apart to reveal a new tunnel, leading deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. The next trial awaits, Kale's voice echoed in my mind. The trial of courage. Are you prepared to face your fears, Ambrose Wynter? I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation as I turned to Sophia and Lyra. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm as we stepped forward into the unknown. The tunnel stretched before us, its darkness seeming to pulse with an otherworldly energy. I could feel the labyrinth shifting, its secrets waiting to be unlocked, its trials waiting to be overcome. As we walked, the air grew colder, the shadows deepening, and I knew that we were being watched, that unseen eyes were upon us, waiting for us to falter. Suddenly, the tunnel opened up into a massive chamber, its walls lined with mirrors that seemed to stretch on forever. In the center of the chamber, a single figure stood, its back to us, its presence seeming to fill the room. "Welcome, Ambrose Wynter," the figure said, its voice low, menacing. "I have been waiting for you. My name is Erebus, and I am the keeper of the trial of courage." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation as I stepped forward into the unknown. Erebus turned to face me, its features shifting like the shadows on a moonlit night. Its eyes burned with an inner fire, and I felt a shiver run down my spine as our gazes met. "You have unlocked the secrets of the artifact," Erebus said, its voice dripping with malice. "But can you face your deepest fears, Ambrose Wynter? Can you confront the darkness that lurks within?" Sophia and Lyra stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the figure before us. I knew that I had to be the one to take the lead, to face whatever terrors lay ahead. "I'm not afraid of my fears," I lied, my voice steady. "I'm ready to face whatever you have in store for me." Erebus chuckled, the sound like thunder in the darkness. "We shall see," it said, its eyes glinting with amusement. The mirrors around us began to ripple like the surface of a disturbed lake. Images coalesced within their reflections, and I saw flashes of my past, of the people I had lost, of the struggles I had faced. I saw my mother, her eyes cold and unforgiving, her words cutting deep into my soul. I saw my father, his eyes filled with disappointment, his silence a heavier burden than any weight. The images shifted and I saw the faces of my enemies, their eyes burning with hatred, their voices whispering cruel truths in my ear. I felt a sense of unease growing within me, a sense of doubt that threatened to consume me. But I knew that I couldn't give in, that I had to push forward no matter the cost. "Am not afraid," I repeated, my voice growing stronger. Erebus laughed again, the sound echoing off the mirrors. "We shall see," it said, its eyes glinting with malevolence. The mirrors seemed to surge forward, their reflections merging into a single image. I saw myself standing alone, surrounded by the darkness of my own fears. "You are not prepared for this trial," Erebus said, its voice dripping with contempt. "You are not prepared to face your true self." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew that I had to push forward no matter the cost. "Am ready," I said, my voice firm. Erebus nodded, its eyes burning with an inner fire. "Then let us begin," it said, its voice dripping with malice. The mirrors seemed to shatter, their reflections exploding outward in a kaleidoscope of color and sound. I felt myself being pulled into the heart of the trial of courage, into the very depths of my own soul. I was not prepared for what lay ahead, but I knew that I had to face it, no matter the cost. The world around me melted away, leaving only the echoes of my own fears. I stood alone, surrounded by the darkness that lurked within me. The mirror's reflections swirled around me, a maddening whirlpool of sound and color. I saw myself as a child, cowering in the corner of a cold, dark room. I saw my mother's face, her eyes blazing with anger and disappointment. I saw my father's silence, his absence a heavier burden than any weight. The images shifted and I saw the faces of those I had wronged, their eyes burning with hatred and resentment. I saw the destruction I had wrought, the lives I had ruined, the hopes I had crushed. The reflections coalesced into a single figure, a twisted mockery of my own form. Its eyes burned with an inner fire, its voice a cacophony of cruel truths and whispered lies. "You are a monster," it said, its voice dripping with malice. "You are a tyrant, a destroyer, a liar." I tried to speak, to deny the accusations, but my voice was lost in the whirlwind of sound and color. The reflections seemed to close in around me, suffocating me with their weight. I knew that I had to push forward to face the darkness within, but it was hard to resist the crushing weight of my own guilt and shame. Suddenly, the reflections parted, revealing a figure standing before me. Sophia's eyes were filled with a deep concern, her face etched with worry. "Ambrose, don't listen to it," she said, her voice a gentle whisper in the storm. "You are not a monster. You are not a tyrant." I tried to reach out to her, to cling to her words of comfort, but the reflection surged forward, driving her back. "No, you are not prepared for this trial," Erebus said, its voice dripping with contempt. "You are not prepared to face your true self." I knew that I had to push forward to confront the darkness within, but it was hard to resist the crushing weight of my own fears and doubts. Sophia's face seemed to fade away, leaving me alone once more. The reflections closed in around me, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew that I had to face the truth, no matter the cost. "I am prepared," I said, my voice firm. The reflections seemed to pause, their whispers dying away into silence. The mirror's reflections coalesced into a single image, a reflection of my own face, twisted and distorted. "Then let us begin," Erebus said, its voice dripping with malice. The mirrors seemed to shatter, their reflections exploding outward in a kaleidoscope of color and sound. I felt myself being pulled into the heart of the trial of courage, into the very depths of my own soul. I knew that I was not prepared for what lay ahead, but I knew that I had to face it, no matter the cost. The mirror's shards scattered around me, their fragments dissolving into a swirling vortex of light and darkness. I felt myself being drawn into the heart of the trial, the air thickening with an otherworldly energy. As I stepped forward, the whirlwind grew in intensity, its colors shifting from deep crimson to icy blue. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Suddenly, I found myself standing in a desolate wasteland, the ground cracked and dry, the sky a sickly yellow. A figure stood before me, its features indistinct, its presence radiating an aura of malevolent intent. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice echoing across the wasteland. The figure did not respond, but instead reached out with a grasping hand. I tried to step back, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. As the hand closed around my wrist, I felt a searing pain, as if my very soul was being ripped apart. I tried to cry out, but my voice was silenced by some unseen force. The figure began to draw me closer, its grasp tightening like a vice. I felt myself being pulled into a dark and bottomless abyss, the pain growing with each passing moment. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the agony ceased. The figure released its grip and I stumbled backward, gasping for breath. As I looked around, I saw that the wasteland had transformed into a lush, vibrant forest. The trees towered above me, their leaves a deep, emerald green. Sophia stood before me, her eyes shining with a deep concern. "Ambrose, are you all right?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, still trying to process the trial's latest twist. "What just happened?" I asked, my voice shaking with barely suppressed rage. Sophia's gaze faltered, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of fear in her eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "The trial is testing your courage, pushing you to confront your deepest fears." I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. What other trials lay ahead? What other terrors would I be forced to face? But I knew that I had to push forward, no matter the cost. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm. "Let's see what the trial has in store for me next." Sophia's eyes seemed to flash with a deep sadness, but she nodded. "Then let us proceed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As we stepped forward, the forest parted, revealing a narrow path that wound its way up a towering mountain. The air grew colder, the wind howling like a wolf in the darkness. I felt a sense of trepidation growing within me, but I knew that I had to press on. For I was Ambrose Wynter, the man who had forged a new destiny for humanity, and I would not be defeated by the trials of courage. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, with Sophia by my side, I began the ascent into the unknown. The path twisted and turned, the mountain's rough surface looming above us like a monolith. The air grew thinner, the wind whipping Sophia's hair into a frenzy as we climbed higher. I could feel the weight of the trial bearing down on me, every step a challenge, every breath a struggle. As we reached the midpoint, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was a woman, her features chiseled, her eyes blazing with an inner fire. She wore a cloak of shimmering silver, embroidered with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe like living serpents. "Who are you?" I demanded, my hand on the hilt of my sword. "I am the guardian of the peak," she replied, her voice like a bell ringing through the darkness. "And you, Ambrose Wynter, are the latest to attempt the trials of courage." Sophia stepped forward, her eyes locked on the guardian. "What trials lie ahead?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The guardian's gaze swept over us, her eyes lingering on Sophia before returning to me. "The trial of resolve awaits," she said, her voice dripping with an unsettling intensity. "Are you prepared to face your greatest challenge?" I squared my shoulders, my heart pounding in my chest. "I was born ready," I said, my voice firm. The guardian's gaze seemed to bore into my very soul, as if searching for any hint of doubt or fear. And then, with a nod, she stepped aside, revealing a narrow ledge that wound its way up the mountain's face. "This is the path of resolution," she said, her voice echoing off the rocks. "Those who falter will fall. Those who persevere will emerge transformed." Sophia's hand closed around mine, her grip like Avis. Together, she whispered. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, with a deep breath, we began the ascent into the unknown. The path grew narrower, the wind howling like a beast as we climbed higher. I could feel the trial's power coursing through me, my senses heightened, my heart racing like a stallion. And then, as we reached the summit, the world seemed to shift around us. The wind died, the darkness receded, and a brilliant light burst forth, bathing us in its radiance. In the heart of the light, I saw a figure, its face indistinct, its presence radiating an aura of profound wisdom. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am the keeper of the trials," it replied, its voice like a gentle breeze on a summer's day. "And you, Ambrose Wynter, have reached the pinnacle of the trials of courage." Sophia's hand tightened around mine, her eyes shining with a deep pride. "What does this mean?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. The keeper's gaze swept over us, its eyes lingering on Sophia before returning to me. "It means that you have confronted your deepest fears and emerged victorious," it said, its voice filled with a deep gravity. "You have proven your courage, your resolve, and your determination." I felt a sense of pride swelling within me, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, as the keeper's words sank in, I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. "What's the cost?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The keeper's gaze seemed to bore into my very soul, its eyes filled with a deep sadness. "The cost is yet to be revealed," it said, its voice dripping with an unsettling intensity. "But know this, Ambrose Wynter. Your greatest challenge lies ahead, and only time will reveal its true nature." As the keeper's words faded, the light began to fade, the darkness closing in around us once more. I felt a sense of trepidation growing within me, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, as the darkness consumed us, I knew that the real trial had only just begun.